Call the meeting of the Isabella County Board of Commissioners work session.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Present.
Present. Present.
So moving on, we have approval of the agenda. We have number 4 would be general public comments. Number 5, presentations and special reports. I understand the Isabella County Administrative Controller has a report. Appointments to boards and commissions, which we have none. Item 7 would be finance or committee reports, Finance and Administration Committee.
Finance Administration is all set, Mr. Chairman.
Item B would be Criminal Justice and County Affairs Committee.
Criminal Justice and County Affairs Committee is all set, Mr. Chairman.
And C, Human Resources and Public Works Committee. Then D is Intergovernmental Affairs. Commissioner Marino, do we have any intergovernmental affairs tonight? Item E, Administrative Controller. Moving down, unfinished business, we have none. New business. Item A, we have board discussion, regarding venue and platform for future full board meetings. And then there will be another opportunity for public comment, announcements, and then adjournment. So with that, could I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Report Horton.
Been moved and supported. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We have an agenda. And next is general public comment. Anyone is free to step up to the podium, state your name. We will hold you to 3 minutes.
Sorry, I'm a little sawdusty.
That's all right.
Can you hear me okay? Thank you. Bree Mogenberg. So first of all, I want to tell you all thank you for doing everything you can do. I know that you all received an email from me, and there was a lot of very serious concern that I have in that email that I sent. There were a lot of links that I sent, and I always try to make sure to reference points when I make them and things that I have to say. So I'm going to go back, first of all, to the idea that according to the website, we are still in a state of emergency in Isabella County, and we still have a mask mandate in the county building. Now, unless I'm mistaken, that state of emergency goes all the way back to 2020. So I just want to very briefly talk about an epidemic. So traditionally, when I had a lawsuit against the health department and the governor, that was one of the things that I covered. Traditionally, an epidemic is based on 3 factors, and that's the cases that are positive that need to actually go to the physician to seek doctor relief, and then hospitalizations and death. And I'm saying that because when a state of emergency happens with an epidemic, those are normally three things that are looked at. Now, we all know that the state of emergency has been dropped in the state of Michigan, correct? And we know that there is no mask mandate. You also should be aware the Iron Pig, the judge just ruled that it was unconstitutional and it was severed from public health code, the law that gave the health department the authority to do what they did. Now, with all of that, I'm sure you're all well aware that there's no public health order in Isabella County. So I'm not sure which branch of government you all operate under, but unless I'm mistaken, it's not a lawmaking branch of government. And I'm not sure why we're continuing to go for literally years in a state of emergency without any checks and balances. And so I'm asking that at this point in time, you all do the checks and balances upon yourselves, because at some point in time, this is going to give, and it's all coming down from higher places, and it's going to make its way down to the county level as well. So I do ask that somebody motions to review the state of emergency, and that somebody can motion to add to new business, reviewing the mask mandate and the policies. And I know that not everybody's enforcing it, but according to the website, those still exist. So those are my requests to you, and I hope to hear them be motioned for. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Claudette Schaefer. I live over on Littlefield Road, and I'm here to talk to you today about the activation of an ADLS feature of the wind tower blinking red lights. By definition, what I mean by ADLS is called Aircraft Detection Lighting System. And this is a feature of those towers that turn on the lights when an aircraft is in the area. Without ADLS, which is what we have had for 13 months, these lights blink based on a time system. They come on supposedly in the dark, and then they go off, and pretty much that's how they operate. And they blink continuously the entire time. I believe that this creates a hardship in our community for adults, for children who are living and going to school in that area, particularly in Wademan, and potentially for animals. I'm not so sure about the plants. So as far as the people and the animals, it definitely had an impact. I believe there's a continuum from the reaction of the people of Isabella County, swinging from over here, where people kind of think those twinkly lights are pretty nice, moving through to people who are frustrated about them, to people who are angry about them, to people who are physically ill from the continuous lights. It's been my observation after working on this issue for the 13 months they've been on. That has to do with the proximity of the citizens to the blinking light zones, what I call a red light district, and the financial impact that they have from, some people are receiving money for having those lights blinking, and it doesn't bother them as much as others. So I also believe that there is not any awareness at all of this feature, which I was one. I'm ambivalent about the wind project. When these lights came on, they were shocking factor from where I live and how the time I spend outdoors. I was flabbergasted that this happened. And proceeding along as to what options there were, I discovered that this is a feature that is in fact required in many states and other countries around the world. It's not a novel concept. With the ADLS system activated, these lights would remain off about 99% of the time. The only time they would come into play would be when an aircraft was coming in the area. A couple things about it is it's the third line of defense. So people have, who are flying airplanes, have filed a flight plan so they know where those lights are from reading a map. They have a visual observation of those items, even in the dark.
Ms. Schaefer?
Yeah.
You've reached your 3 minutes.
3 minutes?
Yeah.
I'm
we-
asking you to do two things.
Okay.
Can I finish or you want me to come back tomorrow or
Can
wait till the
you,
end of the meeting?
Can you finish real quick, or there's public comment at the end of the meeting as well? You're more than welcome to comment at the end of the meeting as well.
You know, I have tried so many times to reach out to this board. It's been quite frustrating. I've never heard back. I've talked with you on the phone. I've talked with Frank on the phone. I've tried to come to 2 other meetings when we were during the, quarantine. Basically, I'd like you each to do 2 things. One of them is to take a drive out Baseline Road, to Littlefield, take Littlefield, go into Wademan in the dark. And then get out of your car and look around and just ask yourself if this is a way a person in Isabella County should be living. This is a big deal. I'm not like a weirdo about blinking lights. This is a really impactful thing. And it was your decision that set this up. And I think it was inadvertent, but you have and this is the second thing that I'm asking, is that Isabella County go after a determination to make this feature activated. There is no harm in doing it. And it can be done voluntarily if you issued support for it. There are groups in the community that would work with the utility to have them do it.
I'm gonna have to cut this off right there.
Okay.
Like I say, you're more than welcome. There's
Last
another
thing I
public
want to
comment.
say is that if you continue in inaction, a civil lawsuit will be the result, and it will be a pain in the neck for each of you. And so that's basically what,
Thank you.
what I want to
Appreciate
say. There's
Did
a
you-
lot of research about it, your own staff people.
Thank you. Did you
Yeah.
sign in?
I can sign in if you want.
Okay, appreciate it.
What is the value of signing in?
Just so we have a record of who spoke.
Where does the record go? Because it's not in the minutes. I've noticed in recording minutes in the past, is my address going to be in the minutes?
No, absolutely not. No.
Well,
Your
then what
address will not be in
record
the minutes.
is it for? I'm just asking because I
Yep.
don't get it. I try to do a lot of research on how we got to this decision. and
Well, it's public
I-
comment, it's part of a public meeting, so we record who speaks during public comment.
Where is it? It's not recorded in your minutes. So my question is where it's recorded. So my name is in the minutes, but not my address. Why do you need my address? Where is that recorded?
Just on that sheet of paper right there, as far as I know.
I mean, I don't care if you get.
If
guys
you
know
don't
where I
want to put
live.
your
I'm not-
address, and
I'm
I'm
just-
not,
Doesn't make sense to me because I've reviewed your minutes.
okay. I think so we know who's speaking and where they're residents of, if they're residents of the county or some other place. I think is a reason for that.
If
It's-
anybody is working on this, or those of you I spoke to, if you could reach out, let me know.
Thank
Thank
you.
you for your time.
Yep. Okay, moving on.
We
Hold on. We need to go to the virtual audience. Michelle, is there anyone for public comment? Commissioner Jelzinski, I see has his hand up.
Go right now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. The reason I'm not present for today's meeting is that on Thursday, my wife and I took quick tests, and we did so because my daughter was diagnosed with COVID-19. So we thought we'd check ourselves out. And the wife's came back negative, mine came back positive. To confirm that, I did a second quick test, and it came back positive again. And it's kind of frustrating because I've had both immunizations and the booster shot, and I try to take good care of my health and not expose anybody else. But obviously, I wasn't wearing a mask, and whoever the person was that was infected was not wearing a mask, and I came down with it. And the reason I'm bringing this up is I know we had one of our constituents come before the meeting tonight and has some concerns about masking and health department regulations that we tend to follow. I'm thinking if I can get it after all these things, I'm not a doctor. I don't think anybody else sitting around in that room has a medical background. I am fortunate to have a daughter-in-law that's a doctor and another daughter-in-law that's a registered nurse. And I know both of them speak very strongly in favor of masks protect public health. That said, I don't have any problem with the county's current policy on masking. We have to follow somebody's guidance. People are going to have different opinions on what's right and what's wrong, but the health department are the professionals that we look to keep our population safe. So I'm hoping that I know the CDC says 5 days of isolation. I'm a little bit beyond that. So by the time we get to the next committee meeting and next board meeting, you'll be able to see my handsome face in person again. I do believe, but until then, my wife and I are masking separately in our home, and hopefully I don't contaminate her. And that said, if I don't have ability to participate in the meeting otherwise, I have another webinar I can attend. So I will bow out, not attend tonight's meeting, but to let you know that I've looked at the agenda, and I'm thinking what's going to happen is support of these various motions, and I tend to agree with that. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. We appreciate your concern for others. Michelle, is there anyone else in the virtual? Okay, and if they would like to speak, now is the time to raise their hand.
Which they would do by pressing *9. You're welcome.
Still no hand, Michelle. Okay. Okay, we'll move on. Like I said, there's another opportunity for public comment at the end of the meeting. So we will now move on to presentations and special reports. Item A, Isabella County Administrator Controller Report.
Good evening. I just wanted to start by first saying thank you to all the board. Thank you to all the commissioners. I see Commissioner Jelezinski's dropped off, but I would bet that he's still listening in some capacity. Thank you for your trust in me. Thank you for this opportunity. I wanted to start by telling a very short story about my short time in Dickinson County as the administrator controller up there, and an experience I had with the board and with what I'm going to term parking lot items. So the chairman of the board in Dickinson County likes to be a good host to his board members. And one of the things he likes to do at the meeting is pour each commissioner a glass of water before the meetings. Of course, you do this out of a pitcher. So when I became the administrator controller, I was told about this task, and I was told the only faucet in the courthouse county building complex that pitcher would fit under is in the employee break room. And you have to let the water, you turn the cold water on and you have to let it run because it gets really, really hot for a while. But if you let it run long enough, it'll get cold and you can fill the pitcher. So before a board meeting, one day I was in the employee break room filling the pitcher, and the county clerk came in. And I said, "Dolly, how long have you been here?" She said, 25 years. I said, "How long has this been like this?" "Ever since I've been here." So the next day we got a plumber in and found a mixing valve open that had been left open in the courthouse. They closed that mixing valve that had been left open since the plumbing was installed, I'm sure. And the issue was resolved. But I want to let you know that those are the things that I like to look at. I would call those parking lot items, where it's been parked, it's been looked past. We see it every day, but we don't really see it. So these fresh eyes are going to take a new look. The first thing would certainly be all things budget. A deep dive into all things budget. I've recently met with the county accountants. Chris Whitmer's here in attendance tonight. Thank you, Chris. To develop the new budget calendar for the fiscal 23 year. I can't hardly believe we're saying fiscal 23. But this budget calendar is going to move things up or back, depending on how you think of that. Basically, it will allow more drafts to finance before the presentation. It will move the budget presentation into August. So there's more time to consider the recommended budget. There's more time to research it, accept comments, and revise it before it needs to be adopted. Another thing regarding budget is the 3-year budget forecast. It's a tool that's been developed that we really haven't been using. Steve Krinovic and I just met today with another accountant to talk about getting that back up to date and incorporating this certainly as part of the annual budget process and even incorporating into future financial reports to the board. So you can see this is where we're at currently. I think that's important. I also think anything brought to the board that affects the budget ought to come with what I'm going to call a fiscal note, at a very minimum, a budget amendment. If it affects the budget, at the time this request comes forward, there should be a budget amendment. If we know it's going to impact the budget, where's the money coming from, or how do the increased revenues affect us? Those are good problems to have. Additional budget meetings with departments will be had throughout the year, not just once, not just at budget development time, but to help put the budget for forethought in departments' minds and to catch things. If we're going off track, catch them after first quarter, second quarter, but not in the last quarter where there's little time to affect any change in that regard. I will be looking at and analyzing vacant positions, not just the deputy administrator controller position, but certainly starting with that, certainly starting in administration and looking at all the opportunities as they come forward. I think that's just good practice anytime you have a vacant position. I think analyzing county appropriations is important. I think the material recovery facility has a big target on it for that, but it also has some of the biggest potentials involved with it. I would love to get support from the board for seeking a feasibility study on the material recovery facility to see what the future looks like in that regard. In order to go for any type of grant dollars, we would need to have that feasibility study completed. We need to know the data. In order to think about a regionalization effort, we need to know what's the volume of recyclables in our region. Those things would come from a feasibility study. COVID taught us anything, it's that this community believes in and supports recycling for sure. So I think it's very timely to do something at the MRF. I don't know if support from the board comes in the form of a formal ad hoc committee or if it's through your standing committee structure, but I would look for certainly support from the board in that endeavor. We can't think about budget without thinking about wind turbine revenues. Certainly a large part of our budget revenue projections now. And I think we all understand that that's still an estimated amount. In fiscal 22, this will be our biggest year for turbine revenue in terms of the turbines that are sited currently in the county. This is the first year or year one of the northern wind farm where they come on the tax rolls at 100% of their 100% of their taxable value. Up until now, that wind farm has been under construction, so it came on at half rate. Those revenues are actually reported by the taxpayer because they're personal property. So next month in February, those are due from the taxpayer where they report the value, and then we assess our millage against those values. And so we'll know soon where the taxpayer believes those values are. We have some recourse in that regard if they're not where we think they will come in at, but it will no longer be an estimate after next month. So that's encouraging. Certainly another thing that is tied to somewhat to budget, of course, is the American Rescue Plan dollars and the committee associated with that. That committee is soon to be resurrected. It will have additional members in addition to those who are currently set on it, but we'll definitely be looking at this unprecedented opportunity and bringing recommendations to the board. One of the things, really the last thing I wanted to talk about in this report, and I can open it up for questions, is I wanted to request the commissioner's assistance in some regard. The committees and boards that you're appointed to, if you could collect for us the bylaws associated with those boards and committees. We just need to get up to date on that. So this would be a very appropriate time as you're starting those initial meetings in the year. They're probably sending out bylaws. You might even be voting on bylaws in those various boards or committees. But if you could somehow get those to the clerk and/or we would greatly appreciate it. It would help us a lot. Does anybody have any questions for me?
Yeah, just look forward to with yourself and the chairman, looking forward to a fresh beginning and a fresh start for the county. I think as we move forward, I think we talked about, you're just not a 1 to 2 year plan, a 4-year plan or 8-year plan. You're going to be here for a while, I hope. And, it's good to look things from a perspective of a new, fresh set of eyes. And also too, if you look at, we've got a lot of unknowns, like you said, the turbine revenue for one. We even may be successful for 1 to 5 to 7 years, but we got a 40-year note, possibly. And things can happen in 40 years. So you have to have I always like to use the term acute and chronic. You have to have it or phase it in a short and long term, short and a long game. The old thing is drive for show, putt for dough. But in this case, it's kind of reversed. You're putting for dough at the beginning, but the long game is the most important game in this regard. So not an envious task, let me tell you. Good luck with that. And as far as committee goes, I think better use of all 3 committees, 3 of the major committees. I think that's a good way to go about doing it. You already have a group together, subject to open meetings, things like that. So I really like the idea of doing that. Chairperson sit down and make it a 3-member person. So you have 3 people, 3 commissioners discussing, creating again, and also getting back to the formation and looking at the MRF. Commissioner Engler is the expert on this board as far as the MRF goes. But in the 1 year that I sat on it, this is being my second, I just went out. Oops, now I'm back in. We went into probably a high price of commodities right now. Yet there is a vast amount of time not being used because of personnel issues, and it's nothing to do with fault of the MRF. It's just the nature of our society today. Also, too, is it's when you're taking $450,000 out of the general budget year after year. We went up from 300 in the past to I think 350, now 450. That is something that this commission this year and in future years have to be aware of. And it's a good thing to start looking at as we go forward. Again, you got a 40-year note coming up, and that's a long time to pay on something. So that's all I have to say. So thank you for that report. Very, very, it was kind of laying the groundwork to where you want to go, which is a good idea.
Commissioner Horton, any other questions or comments for Ms. Frost? Commissioner Engler?
Yeah, just 2 real quick ones. First of all, on the committee bylaws, is that just for board appointed committees, I take it?
I think clerk and I would appreciate any you could get your hands on, honestly.
Oh, man. Anyways, just real quick on the MRF, since it's been brought up, I said there's a lot of opportunities there to look at. I think there's a lot of things we need to look at and brainstorm on as far as maybe looking at there's opportunity for other counties, making it regional, looking at the different companies. I've worked with like Hewlett Packard and some of them that are looking to do some of that the electronic ways. So So do we want to keep it at the current system or would we like to do a more of a regional? Some of the other counties might not want to be involved in it. But for another 40 miles on a truck, you could actually bring a lot bigger area. And it would be more economical if we had more product running through. So there are a lot of things you can look into, but those are just a few of them. There's opportunities there. You probably do not want to stay the way it is. So there probably does need to be some changes to be operational. But anyways, I'll stop there because we could go on for a while, but.
Yeah, Commissioner Marino.
Time to time, we get presentations from people. And at one point, it was a recommendation about the person they have in that organization that is kind of a liaison between the universities and recycling centers in the area. So I would suggest that we also especially on sustainability, because there are some professors and departments that specialize in sustainability of MRFs, and it's like printing stuff up with 3D printers, making products from the stuff, just innovations and harnessing the expertise we have at the university. That's what I would suggest. That's all I have.
Any other questions or comments for Ms. Frost? I'll just say that Ms. Frost, this sounds like a good plan moving forward. I like the idea of moving the budget calendar up a little bit so it gives us a breathing room. 11th hour trying to get something hammered out that we don't all agree on. So more time on that is a good thing, I think. And looking at and analyzing all vacant positions, another fantastic idea. And I just really appreciate all your thoughts, and it sounds like a good plan to move us forward. So with that, we'll move on. We don't have any appointments to boards or commissions, which brings us down to committee reports. Finance and Administration Committee.
Mr. Chairman, as my first go at it, coming back after a year hiatus from being the official one of the official spokespersons on the Finance and Administration Committee, I'm flying solo tonight, so I wish Commissioner Jelezinski a quick return to his position on this dais. So that being said, this is probably the largest presentation of invoice lists we're going to have this year. This contains 5 invoice lists and 1 large adjustment list. As board members, we all know we receive these notices ahead of time before for each committee meeting, that each board member gets to take a look at it, comment on it, back and forth. In the last committee meeting, Finance Administration, we went over the invoices. Neither Commissioner Jelezinski or myself had any real issues. I can speak for him, I think, in regards to it. So I'll just briefly gloss over each one of them. And if any commissioners, of course, have any questions, feel free to offer some input. That would be appreciated. As we all know, we list out some anything over $5,000 is carved out and listed separately, so each board member would be aware of if there's a high dollar amount, so they can pinpoint on that. But I encourage, as always, all the board members I know look through these with a fine tooth comb, as do I. Getting to the first one, December 17th, 2021 invoice list. We show pretty standard charges. I think the prosecuting attorney appeared before us and some of their case management software, which was approved. That was a $72,000 outlay. Again, everything we pretty much have seen there. I'm going to go over each one of them, and then at the end, if that's okay, Chairperson, the commissioners can ask questions. That way we can.
Absolutely.
As far as December 24th, again, everything was listed out at $5,000. Normal course of business items. We had our November architectural services, Preston Community Services, which is our equalization contract out. Michigan State University, we had our payment to hats. Another, the material recovery. Commissioner Engler loves to talk about skid steers, but I'm not going to give him the opportunity. That was that was something that we talked about in commission. So that was some of the other items, again, also payments out to the public defenders, the contracted public defenders. The December 31st list was kind of a smaller one as far as the big dollar amounts, but it wasn't small on the listed out invoices. The Verizon wireless bill, we had our monthly sound review from the, not monthly, but we had our November wind study review from Spicer Group. And then the Register of Deeds had the fourth quarter remonumentation, tax collection, transmittals of over 10,000. Again, nothing really normal course of business in a county of our size. January 7th, long list of items over that amount. The treasurers started doing some tax distributions. We have a large amount out to the Gratiot Isabel Intermediate School District. Again, these are tax collections and paybacks to the various parties. Drains had some large repairs going on, so they had some large payments going out. Again, the HATS contract, and I think I skipped over one. I don't know which one I did. There's only, I thought there was 5. Maybe there was only 4.
I only see 4.
Adjustments list would be.
Adjustment.
5.
Plus, there's that 5th one. I was the, and the adjustment list contains the items that we commonly see, the Gordon Food Service. We get because we pay early, and also Consumers Energy because we pay on time. That's a good thing this time of year for people who pay on time for their consumer bills, because some people unfortunately can't pay on time. And again, that's not the county. Payments to the city we pay to avoid late fees, which is good. And that's really nothing out of the ordinary. So that's 4 invoices and an adjustment list for the commissioners. Any questions, comments, concerns? Commissioner Engler.
Not on the skid loader. But anyways, just notice on the January 7th in there that we approved for the baler repairs for the MRF facility, since we were talking about that. That will fix it for a while, but if you understand the way that machine works, the pressure on there and the metal stress on there, we can keep fixing it, but there'll be a point where we'll have to replace it. So it'll probably run for a while again, but the amount of pressure and the amount of time that runs, it just, after a while, everything gets stressed, and you can fix them for a while, but then after a while, it becomes a point of actually you're spending more time fixing and putting money into it. So I don't think we're there yet, but that is something the planning or looking into going forward. So this will keep it running for a while, but if you know the operation of that and how old it is, it just gets metal stressed after a while. So that's all I have to say, just because we brought it up and it was on the talked about last 2 meetings ago. So
Okay, hearing and seeing none, that will move forward to this evening on the agenda. Okay, next up is switching and looking at the wrong. Consider approving addendum number 2 to the agreement between Isabella County and MGT of America Consulting LLC for the preparation of the county's fiscal year 2021 cost allocation plan in the amount of $12,000, and authorize the board chair to sign the same. This is something we did in years 19 and 20, or 2021, depends how you look at it, in regards to the cost allocation plan recommended vendor, because it's requirement of the county to submit a cost allocation plan by September 30th of each year to the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services Office of Child Support. The cost allocation plan is prepared annually by an outside firm to accurately account for the allocation of actual expenditures of central services across benefiting funds and departments, and ensures that the county has a sound basis for applying indirect costs. So we went out a couple of years ago. We had a long time, somebody that did that for us. We went out a couple of years ago and engaged the services of MGT of America Consulting for $12,000. And this is year number 3 of that agreement. And this is addendum number 2 of that agreement, which the chairperson will take his blue pen out this evening and sign that, hopefully, so that we'll all agree. And like I said, this continues the cost as the same. We discussed in committee the potential of looking into this further instead of 3 years, and that will probably be brought up early rather than later to decide if that's the course of action. But so far, so good. And County Administrator Controller Frost, did you have anything to add to this?
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Well, you wrote it, so I got to read what you wrote, so there you go. Any further comments or questions from commissioners? Okay, hearing and seeing none, that will move forward to this evening, and Chairperson Hope, this completes the work of the Finance and Administration Committee.
Thank you, Vice Chair Horton, and good job carrying the load for
Yeah.
Finance Administration tonight.
So thank you.
We will move on. Item B, Criminal Justice and County Affairs.
There, I hope we have one item, consider approving the 2022 coronavirus emergency supplemental funding grant contract between Michigan State Police and Isabella County Trial Court in the amount of $1,210 and authorize the board chair to sign the same. And we have Court Administrator Carrie Curtis here to tell us of this little shortfall from our request for funding here.
Absolutely. Good evening, well, almost evening. So we did apply for funding based on what the Michigan State Police advised us was available and what our amount we could apply for was, which was 75,000. So we ended up applying for 71,000. Turns out they had over 10 million or $1 billion. I think it was $1 million worth of, yes, $10.8 million worth of requests, and they didn't have enough money to cover all of that. So they had to prioritize for courts that had backlogs with dockets or expected backlogs. We don't have that problem. So it created another problem, which meant that we received a smaller award, but so there's our penalty for efficient operations, I suppose. Nonetheless, we still think it's important to ask the board to approve the amount that they are offering to us, because anything is really better than nothing. So we would ask for the chairman to be able to physically sign the grant award amount for the $1,210. You know, the reduced amount is disappointing. It'll just mean that we're going to have to wait to do some things that we wanted to do, or to look at other funding options, but it in no way impacts the ability of the court to operate. So for that, we are grateful.
Thank you, Court Administrator.
Yeah, we had in committee, we had quite a discussion how, of course, I deal a lot with the USDA, but how sometimes that if you don't do a great job, you get rewarded. And we want to thank Carrie for the great job they've been doing in there, and that we didn't get a bunch of money because you were doing a poor job. So it's just kind of a comment. It's too bad that has to happen, but unfortunately that's sometimes that happens. But anyways, we told her not to not do a good job because we wanted you to keep doing a good job. So that's only comment to some of the discussions we had in committee. So thank you, Carrie.
Anyone else have questions for Court Administrator or for subcommittee?
Kind of a case of no good deed going unpunished. Right?
Yeah.
Ms. Curtis.
It's
Thank you.
okay. We'll keep doing what we're doing. I like this way better. So
Absolutely. Yep.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
thank you.
All right, seeing no further comment, we'll move this forward to the regular session tonight. And that ends the business of Criminal Justice and County Affairs Committee.
That moves us down to item number C, Human Resources and Public Works.
Commissioner Marino, I don't know if you saw our facilities director hop on. Okay, good.
I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time hearing.
You're up, Steve.
Okay. First of all, I'd like to introduce Mark Lumen from Consumers Energy. I hope I said your name right, Mark. Mark agreed to come today and help out answer any questions that you might have at the end of this. Basically what this is, it's an agreement between Isabella County and Consumers Energy that at times of peak energy load during the months of June through September, we're willing to turn on our generators to produce electric instead of pulling electric off the grid. This would help lessen pressure on the grid for consumers' power, and we would get paid to do this. As you can see, there is a signing bonus for the two facilities that I chose. They were the jail, the sheriff's building, and the Commission on Aging, because they are full generator backup. That way I didn't have to worry about any interruptions in power, because the other 4 generators we have only run partial parts of the buildings. This is a 3-year agreement. We are limited or maxed out at 6 events during a year for a 4-hour period each time. But I was told, Mr. Lumen, correct me if I'm mistaken, but in the last 10 years, I think there was 1 demand response initiated is all. So this is an opportunity for the county to put a little money in its pocket and might not have to do much except me going out and starting up 2 generators, hopefully only a couple times.
Thank you. Does any commissioners have any questions? It seems like a really good deal. Commissioner Engler?
Maker, I know you'll probably give me grief on this, but what are our generators? Are they diesel or are they natural gas?
They're gas.
They're gas.
Actually, you have, yes, gas.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Mr. Moreno? Just real quick, and again, this is just a worst case scenario. And does the county have the ability, if something goes wrong with our generators, to then kick back onto the normal grid? In this
Yes.
concept? Okay, I figured as much.
Mark, you have anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, I can. The plan is to always have the electricity there when you need it. This is just in case of an emergency. We ask people to participate, but you're not required to. There is a small surcharge. It could go up to 8% of your payment. So you get a payment per year, per season, whether you participate or not. And then if there is an event, then you'll get paid for what you do participate, which turning on the generator should be fine. But if for some reason you can't, the penalty is about 8% of that. So if one of the 2 generators would come on, financially you'd be whole through that whole event. The other thing I just want to mention, it's actually a maximum of 10 events that was changed. So, and just to clarify, this is for about $3,000 a year.
Thank you. Any more questions? This usually happens during the summer, right? Could happen.
Yes,
During
June through September.
only. It would not happen outside of those months. We don't call events during those off months.
Okay.
Typically, I think it's going to be in the summertime when everybody is using their air conditioners, their fans, and there's a lot of draw on the grid.
Okay, if there's no further questions, that item will be dealt with this evening at the regular session. And that concludes the work of the Human Resources and Public Works Committee, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Marino. Yeah, Mr. Lumen, I see your hand up. Do you have something you want to add?
I just wasn't sure when the regular commission, is that part of the same meeting or is that like a following meeting?
Yeah, that will be at 7 o'clock when we have the regular session, and we will vote on the motion at that time, at that meeting. It starts at 7.
Okay. Yeah, I just so I knew we have a deadline of this Friday to get it in for this year's season. So I just want to make sure. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shoemaker.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Schmidt.
Okay, moving on, intergovernmental affairs, we have none. Administrator controller issues, we have none. We have no unfinished business. New business, item A, board discussion regarding venue and platform for future full board meetings. And what we wanted to do is just get a feel for where the commissioners are at as far as we have the option of staying here. Option of going back to the county building. We have option of staying with the hybrid model or videoing the meetings and posting them. We have that option. Move forward in administrative controller Frost. I don't know if you want to add anything to that or.
I'm certainly thankful to Commission on Aging, grateful that we have the space available to us. It does allow us to spread out. I just want you to keep in mind that the requirement is that you are physically present in a location for your meetings. The public, the department heads, the presenters, they can join by other means, regardless of whether the meeting's posted as a hybrid or not. And we learned that from one of our committees where we had a presenter join us by phone on Tuesday due to concerns they didn't want to come in. I got a little nervous after that decision was made, and I emailed the legal counsel to say, was that the right thing to do? My gosh, we want to comply with Open Meetings Act. We didn't post it as a hybrid, is that right? And he reiterated, there is nothing to prevent a person other than a member of a public body from appearing and participating remotely. County staff, county attorney, contractors, even if the meeting was not posted as a hybrid meeting. The in-person requirement is only for the members of the public body. So I just want you to remember the Zoom stuff is extra, the hybrid stuff is extra, the recording, the live to YouTube, that's extra. I just wanted to remind you of your requirements.
Thank you. My opinion, I'm just one commissioner, but I personally feel that this space affords us a little more room to spread out. With COVID cases spiking the way they are, the room at the county building is a little smaller. There's another room upstairs that's a little bit bigger, but this layout kind of puts us here. It puts the public there, no offense, but it gives us all a little bit of space. And personally, I like this venue. As far as the hybrid, I like the hybrid. I like the idea of people being able to attend remotely, presenters. It makes it easy for them if they don't feel safe coming into public venue, or if it's just unpractical for them to get here. They can still present electronically. I think that's all there was something else I was going to say, but it escapes me at the moment. So I don't know how the other commissioners feel about any of that. Commissioner Horton?
Thank you. This is something going forward. I've said before, COVID's been some uncharted territories as a board we've had to address. And I think we've done a wonderful job in addressing those. But it's something now that if we've taken some stuff away, some positives, if you want to try to put some, make some lemonade out of the lemons that we've been dealt. One is the ability through visual or some type of entity like that. I really think that's a good idea, especially for our meetings here. I think we should go forward as far as hybrid capabilities to allow to get our meetings out to a general, more of a, that more public participate, not just watching it, but being able to actually Zoom. I mean, that brings us to the 2022 technology. I think for not to do that, I think is below, as far as I would consider, below the standard. I think we need to continue on with doing that. I like to see that in committees, maybe not have an active call-in system, but have the availability, especially for outside. Let's say, for instance, we want to have Consumers Energy. I don't know how they did the committees because I didn't attend the committee, but if we have an outside entity, not a county related, someone come in and being able to tie in, communicate with us, not necessarily have to sit at the table. I think that's a good thing. I'm again trying to, because it's not apparently not required for them to do that. It's required for the commissioners to do that. I would encourage state legislature to maybe address this going forward again. Maybe not so much for our actual voting county board, but from a committee standpoint, to allow some options for Zooming and some virtual voting or activity. If they can figure out a way to make it, so the Open Meetings Act probably blend everything in. Because they going down the road, county commissioners are going from a 2-year term to a 4-year term. And I think also it opens up the availability for people to participate as a county commissioner. I couldn't do it during normal business hours. Commissioner Moreno, if I had discussions, it's a lot of work for someone to become a county commissioner and all the meetings and everything to get your schedule. I know for myself, it was nice being able to remote in from Big Rapids, Michigan, where my office is at, now having to attend in person. Again, it's the physicality of it. It's tough. Having to drive over to Saginaw for a meeting, again, where you could virtual do it. That saves not only myself time, but the county time and mileage and time things like that. So I think that has to be looked at. As far as the venue goes, I like the setup here. I don't know if it continues to be set up, whether we're taking it away from our senior citizens in our community. Maybe there's something where we can, for lack of a better term, like they do in concert stages, tear it down and put it back up again. Or like you do in hockey rinks, you tear it down and put a basketball court in, take that down, put an ice rink in. Figure out a way, dual use as we get busier and busier. I don't like the setup right now. If you're looking at the county building currently right now, as far as some of the, certainly the sound system. Well, I say that, my phone goes out. But the sound system there is atrocious, I think, and needs to be looked at. Michelle, I didn't mean that negative on you by any means, but the ventilation, things like that, I think it's as Chairman Hope said, we are more spread out here, which is good. Again, and so I would like to continue kind of looking at that, but yeah, this is something I think we need to discuss maybe every quarter, every 3 months, to kind of revisit. I know we mentioned that too. Some of our policy setup. I think it's time. Again, this is not the time where this meeting is not the time to discuss it by any means, but I think we need to look at some of the things that we're doing, just get an update. So I'll discuss it. I think I discussed it with the chairperson, and I'll discuss it with the county administrator controller too. I just think we just need to touch base on everything that we're doing, bring ourselves up to date. Again, and I got some stuff in the announcements I want to bring forward too, just to kind of keep everyone aware. But yeah, as far as I'm rambling now, Commissioner Swaney would say. But I think going forward, I like how we're doing it. Look at a hybrid option, continue that, and going forward, hopefully our legislature can do something to kind of combine the virtual component and meeting the Open Meetings Act. So thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Swaney, you had your hand up.
I think first, if we stay here, maybe we need some commissioner training on mics for all of us. And that's probably not even a humorous statement. It's probably stone cold reality. So I don't really like the setup that we currently have at the administration building. And I think that moving up to 320 in the administration building would be probably a difficult endeavor to take on, because we've already got, miking and video and electronic set up here. And I know that from my experience with 320, there's not a lot of outlets, and it's not set up for this type of meeting. So I think right now, this is the best venue that we can utilize. And I would be happy to stay after our 7 o'clock meetings and break down all the tables or whatever is needed to make it set up for Commission on Aging. So just let us know what Commission on Aging needs and or what problems this sets for them. And I'm sure that we can overcome them. As far as electronic, I do like the hybrid model for, our administrators and our department heads. They can click on at 4 o'clock from their office to join the meeting. And it's not a break in their routine, as because they can just keep one eye on us until it's their time. I do think that in some form we need to do recording and put it out on right now we do YouTube. So I think that needs to continue. I don't have an opinion on whether that being done live or posted later. So if the hybrid model falls out of favor, I do think we do need to have recording. That's all I'll say.
Mr. Marino.
I just want to say that when we first started this venue and the hybrid and, broadcasting it on the internet and taking the feedback, it was really a difficult change. But I think we're starting to get in the groove now. And as far as public comment, as far as reporters watching it, not even being here and writing for the newspaper. And also, so I favor this, what we're doing now. We still have to think about how it impacts the Commission on Aging and what we can do to make that smooth and responsible. But as far as the county building, like was mentioned before, ventilation concerns me, closeness concerns me. The more electronic problems than we have here concerns me. So personally, I would favor just staying the course that we're on right now to meet a lot of concerns and make it as smooth as possible and allow for participation and not only of the public, but also department heads and so forth.
Yeah. Anyone else?
I agree. I don't know any of them. So, I mean, to me, this is wonderful. I had my first work session in the county building the other day, and I can see where that would get cramped. And especially with the public, this is so much better, so much better. And I think we have come a long way with the mic situation. And I think I'm all good with this. And I do think we need to record it. And I think this allows the public also to feel comfortable coming in, going to the mic. Or do we need to call? All for it.
Mr. Inkler, do you have any?
I pretty well go wherever I need to go. So,
Okay.
yeah.
You're
my
easy to deal
my
with.
district covers 150 miles. This is actually closer to me.
Yeah, he has a shorter drive here than I'm going.
Yeah, parking lot's nice, but yeah, wherever the business needs to be done, I'm really don't have an opinion one way or the other as far as which works.
I appreciate that. So I think what I'm hearing from everyone is they like it here. This seems to be working. I do think we need to, if we can't go to a hybrid for committee meetings right away, need to at least start video taping those and posting them, because there are people that like to go back and watch committee meetings, myself included, sometimes when I can't make the meeting and wanna, sometimes it's easier for me to go back and listen to the discussion rather than read the staff report or discussion sometimes is more helpful to me to get a sense of what was going on. And sometimes if I can't sleep at night, I watch them. So,
Oh, geez, that helps.
that was a joke. But yeah, do you have something you want to add?
I would just talk about Zoom for just a minute. I mean, we still have some audio issues in here, some audio issues with the recording. And I think a lot of that stems from the purpose of Zoom was to keep us all in our homes while we're individually joining on these laptops, right? It was never meant for a room full of people on their own laptops joining the same meeting. So I just wonder what your comfort level is in having, say, the laptop in the corner set up to where it's a video of the whole room. I'm just, in conversations with IHE, we're just trying to think of what would improve this experience, what would make the recordings more valuable, what would solve our audio solutions. So are you married to the individual pictures and being on your own laptops in the room?
Yeah, some of the complaints, if we are gonna do the Zoom or go to something in there, is that people cannot tell who's talking. So we need to either identify ourselves or even just when you're talking, take the mask down so they can see you talking, because I've heard that so many times, they don't know who's talking, they can't hear. That's the only really complaint I've heard, is that, which means people are actually listening to us, which is good. So but I've heard that complaint several times, so just so they know who's talking, and maybe so, sometimes that gets in there. So, we are spread somewhat, so maybe when you're talking, so you can see on the Zoom one person who is talking and you can figure it out, so.
Yeah, but since only one of us is connected to audio, it looks like that's always the person that's talking. And
That
so,
is true. That's,
in normal Zoom, you would light up and everybody would see who was talking regardless of masking.
if you could have camera view where you catch everybody.
Question for that is, and again, this is just, since we're having a discussion, I have absolutely no idea what just came in my head just now. But is there a way you can put captions on that? Or if not, maybe not the live version, but the released YouTube version or something like that? Put captions, be able to go in, someone like Michelle, who's got more technology stats, she's forgotten more than I'm ever going to know. But go back in and then put captions on who's speaking, like Commissioner Hutchinson, just underneath his name, being able to add that to a video. Is that possible to put captions in on something
I
like
think
that?
it would be possible if we were all joining on audio so that the platform knew who was speaking. Then I think there probably
I'm
is
talking,
some
I'm
kind
just
of
talking going
caption.
in after the fact, and for lack of a better term, copying and pasting a name over who's talking. I don't know if that's possible or not possible. I mean,
I do not know if that's possible.
I don't have no clue. So
It would be-
Explaining, talking. I think until we figure something out, just announce our name.
that makes
Commissioner Marino.
Yeah, I just attended environmental committee of MAC last Friday. And the way they do that is they have one camera and it shows all the people in the room. Like he said, Commissioner Sweeney, we could just announce ourselves when we begin talking, but it covers everybody in the room. It's kind of high, and all that. I don't know. That's just the way they do it, and it was Zoom, so.
You're still going to have the issue where you need to announce yourself, because even if there's a camera over there, unless you're like me and you talk with your hands, you have no idea who's speaking behind the mask. So.
Without the Zoom, with doing a video conferencing type, that would only allow one person electronically at a time, correct?
I believe so. I believe so.
Nicole and I,
They don't work.
when we talked with on the Zoom, so demo them that you wouldn't want.
Uh-huh. If that would work, doesn't bother me. I like the idea of the public being able to attend.
To me, that's Zoom. You know, we're not going to set up a hotline for them to call. Zoom does that, right? I mean, if that's what you want, I think that's Zoom.
I would be interested in hearing or getting a study on our sound problems. Not fixing, like, what do we need to do? Because it is, I think, in our best interest that the public is able to hear us at all times. And we're obviously still struggling. As Michelle's talking and the mic's like cutting it out. So, we need to fix this, and we need to stop, moving on, I think, with what we have now and get something taken care of, and if probably be addressed in, the 2023 budget, I guess, that we're just start next week.
Okay. Anything else? I am on a 6-county board of community mental health board, and there's 2 commissioners from some of the counties. Some of the smaller counties have 1 commissioner, but then there's 2 community members from each county, and then staff. So you're talking sometimes 25 people or so in their conference room. I would say is smaller than this half of this room. And some of the members said, I don't want to go. I don't want to attend. It's unfortunate that they can't participate remotely and be part of the meeting and count towards a quorum and vote and deliberate. And but they've expressed that they don't want to attend in person, and under that situation, we're kind of fortunate. We have more room here to spread out. So we canceled the January meeting, and hopefully the legislature does do something about that, as Vice Chairman Horton mentioned. Don't know if they will or not. So we may continue with Open Meetings Act that we have right now. So. Anything else? Okay, good discussion. And I think we have a feel for.
I think we continue as we are in this room for these meetings. I'm hearing a hybrid meeting here. And then I would think we would, for committees, maybe that's where we roll out, incorporate Zoom with 1 camera. It's a smaller group. So the 1 camera can likely pick up the voices and the video of those at the smaller table. So maybe we try that route with committees, and if it works well, we can incorporate it here. But I would never want to move this group to the county building until we were in as good or better condition than we are here for holding meetings. No one's looking to go there to go backwards, certainly.
Appreciate that. Okay, moving on then. Brings us down to general public comment. Do we have anyone for general public comment?
Bree Mogenberg again. So the third thing that I would really like to see motion. So this is the public speaking to the county commission right now, and this is a request to the public. I would like to see ventilation considered, and it was just spoke about how important ventilation is, and I'm not sure what the county buildings have for ventilation, but this is all going back to the masking, and this is all going back to the state of emergency. So again, I just want to reiterate, because I would really like to hear a conversation about your scope and authority that you're looking at and using to continue to keep us in a state of emergency for 2 years almost, I believe it's 2 years almost that we've been in a state of emergency. And I just listened to a commissioner speak. I'm very sorry that, somebody's infected with COVID and that they have it. Sadly, I'm going to take a really big, risky stab in the dark here. And I'm going to say probably most everybody here has had it. I'm going to guess that maybe a lot of people have also been vaccinated and boosted, and that's wonderful. And that's your choice. I can speak for myself, and I don't mask. I haven't masked. I'm healthy. I'm doing very well. So when you're making your decisions, I want to know as the public that this decision is not being based on fear. So even the CDC talks about the Omicron variant and how pretty much everybody's going to end up getting it. Your cloth mask is basically useless at this point, and it should be an N95. And I really hope people that are sitting here tonight are actually listening to what I'm saying, because I'm not just blowing steam. I'm actually telling you this. These are things that the CDC says and speaks about, and it's not to be taken lightly. Being in a state of emergency for 2 years, I don't take that lightly. I don't take the masking mandate that continues to be in effect when it's recommended. So I just want to say that again, it's recommended. The CDC recommends it. The CDC recommends it. The public health officer of Central Michigan District Health Department does not have a public health order. So again, if you're not sure how that works, I do invite you to look up that. So I'm not talking about the Michigan Health Director. I'm not talking about MCL 332253 that was just severed because it was unconstitutional. I'm talking about the local health director does not have a public health order. I'm not blowing steam. It's not going to go away. Omicron's not going away. COVID's not going away. There are things that are looked at when you're considering an epidemic. Fear is not a factor. And I'm going to say that again. Fear is not a factor. Your mask is not stopping it. I love everybody. I think everybody's great and wonderful. This does not mean that I'm not compassionate. It is a fact. And if you want to believe your science, you may. I can also look at science. But when there's a recommendation, I don't believe you should have any authority to mandate anything on somebody that is recommended. And I don't say this lightly, but I do say this with love. And I do really ask that you look at those three things, because I would really like to hear them motioned to be discussed so the public can hear your comments and hear your standing on grounds on why you continue to have the state of emergency and why you continue to require the masking. I think that's important for the public to understand again why you've made those choices. Thank you very much for letting me speak again.
Thank you. Anyone else? Michelle, do we have anyone in the virtual audience with their hand raised? Okay. At this time, then announcements. Any commissioners have any announcements?
Nope.
Yeah. question.
Jim Horton speaking here. Just to give a quick update, something just came down, Nicole, I'll forward it to you and also the chairperson, so maybe we can get it out in regards to health plan coverages of OTC COVID-19 tests. I think effective just the other day, it was, people can start getting those and getting reimbursed from their health plans, or that's going to be a rollout nightmare, I think, but that's, so I know as employers, with the county employees, I think you can get up to 8 a month. And the government's going to, apparently, that's going to be mandated to pay for it. I don't know where the money's coming from, but apparently that's going to happen. Plus the 500 million that we're going to possibly receive up to, or even $1 million. Again, but right now, I think what's happening in pharmacies, my understanding is you can try to submit your bills to your third party right now. I think I don't know of any pharmacy right now that's capable of taking those and billing them out. I think what they're doing is making the person pay up front. Again, that's up to the individual pharmacies and how they want to handle it. I know one of the tests for 2 tests is like $25. I think some generic ones are cheaper than that, the one-time deal. Now the difficulty is finding them. It's almost like finding gold sometimes on the shelf if you can find them. They're very difficult to get. Sometimes call your pharmacies and ask when their orders come in. They should be able to tell you if they ordered them, how well they're getting them. That's about the only thing I can say on that, because it's again, I don't know where the fund, how that's all going to work out. There's a whole list of everything. And as far as, say, for instance, we not mandated, but if an employee was testing it for work related, or their employer mandated that they test before they come to work. Apparently that's not covered. It's only for personal use. There's a differentiation of that too. I'll forward you, Nicole, so you can see it. It came from, I believe, Warner, Norcross and Judd, which is a big firm, and it appeared on my Institute for Continuing Legal Education website. That's why. That's my daily and hourly Bible that I look at now 24/7, it seems like, in my life. So again, I'll forward all that information to you. There's been some changes on vaccine mandates as far as where all that's going to. I think right now, the county, because they have 100+, is not mandated to vaccine. So I think that's pretty much going to stay that way. Again, that's just my opinion. I think the Supreme Court's already stated that. So I think there's been some requirements from CMS that they may have to mandate that. But that's a different environment altogether. So anyway, that's my thing. Again, missing Commissioner Jelazinski tonight on his little work that he's going to get out of tonight during the regular 7 o'clock business or meeting. So I'm sure Chairperson Hope will assign me someone to work with me tonight, or I can pick on Commissioner Swaney like I always like to do. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other announcements? Commissioner Engler?
Yeah, not really announcement, but just a comment on some of the windmills. I know I get quite a few calls. Not all of them are nice, but I'm sure Commissioner Hutchison and Commissioner Jelazinski gets calls on it. So I've been kind of keeping an eye on the technology that's going on through there. I know the first ones that operated the FAA did it in 2016, which is right when we were doing it. It was Wyoming. There's another company that's been putting some of them up there. Recently, there's new technology that just happened in September 2021 by Terra in New Hampshire and North Dakota. So the question that we always get into is, does the county actually have the authority to do it, or is it going to have to be a statewide? You got, especially you look at Shepherd, where you have those windmills, and part of the project is in Gratiot County. So these are some of the discussions we have, but eventually I think the state will probably do something. Technology will improve. And the other question we have is, once that we are signed into a contract with them, we probably don't have a lot of legal, we got a lawyer over here, so authority to actually change the requirements on that, unless Detroit Energy that now has it, they do it voluntarily. So just some updates, because like I said, maybe some of the other commissioners don't get the calls, but I certainly do. So and there's some people that are upset, fairly upset about it. And you know, you do see the lights, so it's a concern. So I've been keeping, you know, updated on what's going on, trying to keep up the legislation with either the national and the states, and trying to keep up on that. So if there's any updates, I will bring you up to date on that, but just so you know that there's people out there that are not happy with the windmill. So
Vice Chairman Hope, if I could add to Commissioner Engler, thank you for bringing that up. When the lady, Ms. Schaefer, was speaking earlier tonight in regard to that, I wrote something down and I forgot to look at my notes on that. Back when the Planning Commission was deciding on building the turbines, that was something that was for discussion. I think at one time that was bantered about as having those type of technologies in there. At the time, the planning, and again, I don't want to speak, I can just speak from my own opinion. What I felt at that time was the technology wasn't quite there, as far as my opinion goes, to have that system off on only certain planes. I don't think some of the planes, and I don't even so today, not all of the planes are equipped with that type of technology to turn those things on. Us being a rural community, and you know, we don't think of ourselves as rural. Us being a rural community, you don't want to have a situation happen when someone loses their life in regards to missing that. Again, that's a hypothetical, but in some of the technology may have changed now. Maybe there's ways so they can sense that something's flying at a certain height and a certain weight. There's a type of, for lack of a better term, like a Bluetooth that goes out and catches that. I don't know if that's in the new technology. But I know at that time, that was a big concern of the planning commissioners. And that's kind of the reason why that system with the lights on or off, depending on traffic in the area, wasn't put in. Second thing would be the cost involved. If you could requip them, what significant cost would be involved in that? I don't know that answer. I think that's one thing that had to be looked at. Who would bear that cost? Probably the county, I would think. But again, that's kind of if you want to get kind of like a background on the thought process at that time, because I know Commissioner Moreno was active in the audience. I think some of the nights we were discussing, I think he was in the meetings. It was quite a large vocal back and forth with audiences. And again, this is going back several years, but my thought process on that was the technology at that time didn't quite, had concern, the commissioners had concern, and that's why it didn't get put on at that time, so.
Yeah, just for example, I think when we were looking at it, it was less than a mile of detection. The one that detect the Harrier system detects 3 to 4 miles, and this new system they're trying out is a 21-mile detection system. So it's improved quite a bit in those, since 2016. So the technology has come a long way, and it probably usually when it improves, it also gets cheaper. But like I said, those are some of the discussions we have on my phone calls. So.
I just remember too, and I know we're talking at nighttime when the light's blinking, but I still remember, I think you sent to all the commissioners 1 or 2 years ago, a picture of a plane flying in between the turbines, spraying the fields. And I thought, okay,
That guy retired.
I don't know what the reality or the risk involved in that is, but it's like, and that's why I say we are a rural community. And we have things that Oakland County may not have as far as the different type of planes. We have people that build their own planes and fly them, for God's sakes. And like I said, the worst case scenario is you just don't want to have an accident happen. You want to make sure you try to rule everything out. But I understand that. I keep thinking of in Freeland, where we used to have a pharmacy. There's a park there that every year they have Christmas lights that play the music. And you go there and you sit in your car and you turn your radio on and the Christmas lights flash and the music flash. And every time I kind of go by the way you see the lights going, you think, but there's no music you can play with that. It's just on, off. And, so I hear that. I mean, it's something possibly we do need to look at, but again, that's some of the concerns, cost and the technology, but still meets all the concerns of prior commissions. So thank you. I'm sorry to take up so much time there.
No, that's all right. Thanks, commissioners. It's good information. I do remember the discussion at the time that technology was still pretty new and pretty kind of uncertain at the time. Commissioner Hutchinson.
Yeah, I just, on top of Frank, I get the calls. Just to throw it out there, the other call that we get besides the blinking light is on a really, really clear sunny day is the strobing effect. And it is true. It happens to me. You just get a shadow, and it can be annoying. So I know what they're saying. We're looking into other ways to, minimize that, and other than make that room as dark as you can and you don't get that effect in. But yeah, there's a lot of concern up there for it. And fit right in the middle of it.
Mr. Marino.
Yeah, as Commissioner Horton said, I was quite involved in all those efforts, and we dealt with every single one of these concerns that you're bringing up right now. We did have input. We did have studies about the flicker, the lights, and all that stuff. And you can only do what you can do, and that's the position and the stance that the planning commission and the county commission took at the time. And there was people there saying these things, but we had to make a decision, and we didn't just make a decision. We based it on the things that we learned. And I also want to say that I did talk to professionals about the wind turbine. And they said to me, and people talked to them when there was an office in Rosebush. I don't know if it's still there. But anyway, they said, we can't do it at this time. We can't do the modern automatically turn a light on if a plane's coming. We'll do it next and the next, like in Montcalm County now, they can do that, but they couldn't do it at the time. So, you have to make a decision. You can't just let it up in the air.
Yep. Appreciate that. Any other announcements? Commissioner Sweeney?
Have a little information. If anyone needs to get testing done, you can get a quick test or a PCR test done at the Welcome Center that's just north of Claire.
Cool.
There's a trailer out back that you can pre-register for. And then as they can, I think in about 20 minutes to get to it. I was at a conference last week and before I came here, I wanted to make sure that which I did. So
Quick question on,
I couldn't find any over-the-counter tests in
Yep.
town.
the question, they've been doing the testing up there, I think, for some time. I don't think they've opened up where you can be going north and then go across south. I think you have to continue on up and then come back on get off on man sighting probably, and then come back down. So it's a little bit, I get what you're saying. They've had that available, which is great. Thank you for announcing that. That's a good thing, but just let everyone know is I don't believe you can, if you go north, say we leave here today and drive up there. I don't think you can then come right back south. I think you have to get back on going north and get off at probably, I think man sighting is the next exit, and then do the little crossing and come back. So
Yeah, I just took 10 over and then went down back south through Claire. But yes, you can't cross over onto Welcome Center. Continue on.
That's correct. You can.
I mean,
And I've had
not legally.
ways, 15, 20 minutes in here.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
No, McLaren does free testing as well. They have a drive-through and it's out, I think it's called Family Health Partners Clinic.
Yeah, I couldn't get an appointment until
Um,
Wednesday, but
I tried to get in last Monday. It was a one day they weren't doing it because it was too cold, but they did give me a self-test to take home. But normally, I think they open at 9 and you can drive up and stay right in your car and they'll come out and test you there. It's just north of High Street, right out by our public defender's office. I'm not sure the name of the road there, but it's just
Oak Parkway.
Health Parkway. It's on Health Parkway. Any other announcements? I'll just say, stay safe, everyone, and we'll see you at 7 o'clock. And is there a motion to adjourn?
no, you do it.
Okay, we're adjourned.
Your motion.
That picture of the flicker. Can't find it now.
Good job.
On the fields we were in.